I want to talk to you about a study. I talked to a friend of mine about this past week when I was playing video games with him. And it was brought up in this book, Stolen Focus. This specific study was brought up in this book, which was actually a book that I've talked about previously on episodes here. But Stolen Focus, Why You Can't Pay Attention and How to Think Deeply Again by Johann Hari. This is a book that a classmate of mine did a presentation in our economics class on, but I actually wanted to dive into it after he did a presentation on it. And there's a lot more that he couldn't fit into a 5-minute presentation because a 5-minute presentation is very, very short, including something that was overlooked, not necessarily a fault of his, but was overlooked in the discussion, is the productivity increases of people, because that's the focus of this book, is focus and productivity. And I also have a second book that also notices and highlights the importance of the 4-day work week, focus, dissociation from social media and all these other things that increase productivity and focus. This is called Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. Cal Newport has a very good podcast as well about productivity and focus and, all these things, right? Both of these books, in different reasons, but more specifically Stolen Focus, highlight the benefits of a 4-day work week. The biggest example now that we have is a pilot program in the United Kingdom that has the results. Let me see if this gives me the actual results in the summary. Okay. Here's the executive summary. For those who are just listening, I will read. The report details the full findings of the world's largest 4-day working week trial, 4-day working week trial to date, comprising 61 companies and around 2,900 workers that took place in the United Kingdom from June of 2020 to December of 2022. So it's a 6-month period. The design of the trial involved 2 months of preparation for participants, with workshops, coaching, mentoring, and peer support drawing on the experience of the companies who had already moved to a shorter working week, as well as leading research and consultancy organizations. Companies, which included a range of organizations from diverse sectors and sizes, were not required to rigidly deploy one particular type of working time reduction or 4-day work week, so long as pay was maintained at 100% and employees had a meaningful reduction in work time. Which that means is there was zero deduction in pay. People were paid the same while maintaining a meaningful reduction in work time. The next line says, resisting the idea that the 4-day workweek must be one size fits all, each company designed a policy tailored to its particular industry, organizational challenges, departmental structures, and work culture. A range of 4-day workweeks were therefore deployed and developed, from classic Friday off models to staggered, decentralized, annualized, and conditional structures. Let's see. I'll skip this one, but then go. The trial was a resounding success. Of the 61 companies that participated, 56 are continuing with the 4-day work week. 92%. 18 confirming the policy is a permanent change. Some of the most extensive benefits of shorter working hours were found in employees' well-being. Before and after data shows that 39% of employees were less stressed, which is a huge problem in America. 71% had reduced levels of burnout at the end of the trial, which is good for the worker, but it is also good for the employee or the employer. Likewise, levels of anxiety, fatigue, and sleep issues decreased, while mental and physical health both improved. Measures of work-life balance also improved across the trial period. Employees also found it easier to balance their work with both family and social commitments. For 54%, it was easier to balance, and employees were also more satisfied with their household finances, relationships, and how their time was being managed. Let's just see what else. There's going to be some others. Here's a key one for employers. We actually have two. I'll actually read these two. Other key business metrics also showed signs of positive effects other than shorter working hours. Companies' revenue, for instance, stayed broadly the same over the trial period, rising by 1.4% on average, weighted by company size. That means that despite working a full day less per week, revenues went up. When compared to a similar period from previous years, organizations reported revenue increases of 35% on average, which indicates healthy growth during this period of working time reduction. The number of staff leaving participating companies decreased significantly, dropping by 57% over the trial period. Here's one final thing I'll say on this. For many, the positive effects of a 4-day work week were worth more than their weight in money. 15% of employees said that no amount of money would induce them to accept a 5-day schedule over the 4-day work week to which they were now accustomed. So, this study is one. This entire book is dedicated to talking about productivity changes based on improved relationships with social media, increased health benefits from exercising, which you need time to do, increased sleep, which has been dramatically reduced over the last 100 years for the average American, which then lessens a person's ability to focus, which then decreases their productivity at work. In this book, and it is talking about this study, it talks about the nominal productivity time of workers going up in totality in a 4-day work week versus a 5-day work week, which means what I'm talking about here is if you took 5 days, knocked off the Friday, the amount of actual productive hours, assuming that all the pay is the same, goes up. You get more out of your workers in the 4 days than you would in the 5 days because they're more motivated, they're more rested, they have more work-life balance, they have more control over their schedule, they have more control over their social life, they have autonomy over their life and their career, and they're more financially stable because of that. In the chat, how about a 4 in person, 1 work from home? I think that's a good start. I am in person every day, and during tax season, of course, I work 6 days a week. So for me, if I ever ascend to being a boss at which that's hopefully the case at some level, whether that's in a office capacity or in a different capacity, I plan on implementing a 4-day work week as a boss, and the specifics of which I'll obviously have to work out if I ever get to that point, when I get to that point. But I think the 4 in and 1 work from home is okay. I think the 4-day work week is just better. I've had 4-day work weeks, and I had it where I had to work longer hours for the 4 days. I think that's also stupid. I don't think that you need to do that. I think you just keep it as it is, allow people the flexibility and autonomy over their lives, and it will benefit them. Would you agree that public schools probably won't ever adopt a 4-day work week? That's probably the case. But the thing is schools are unique in that they have summers off. So I'm not going to suggest anything, but teachers have a different schedule than the average office employee that doesn't have a summer. Doesn't my summer was this past weekend. Like those are the days I get off. So there is probably a way to work around it in which teachers are given some benefit, but not every job is going to be compatible to the same schedule necessarily. This is for the average office employee. So a blue collar worker might honestly only need to work 3 days a week. I mean, if you look at firefighters, they do not work 5 days a week. They could not work 5 days a week. It's just not physically safe to do that. 4-day work week and need public school to start at 10 a.m. I believe that there have been studies that say that school should start later. That is supposedly beneficial. The reason why school starts early is because of people having to go to work. I mean, that's the overriding nature of a lot of what we're talking about today is the capitalist driving, the capitalist class, I should just kind of say, because this is not like this. You don't have to be a Marxist to understand this, but and I'm not, preaching anything that you maybe not know, but if you work for a living, you are not a capitalist. You are a part of the working class. You are part of the proletariat, if you want to use Marxist terms. The capitalist class, the people that own the businesses, okay? They need or they want to maximize productivity and production. And that's why I'm talking about this in a way that suggests that there is actually more productive output with a 4-day work week, which is true. It's not like I'm lying. This is what this study shows. If it was just up to me, I would just say it's just good for people to have more time and control of their lives. But that's not me. I'm talking about this in a more political sense. Folks that are in these seats need that. But you need school for people that work. And that's not to say that teachers are just there to babysit. That's not the case at all. But it is a part of our society that is kind of taken for granted. It is built into society. Now, you always notice, like, have you ever seen like people that are homeschooled and like the parents are like, well, just homeschool your kids. Everyone should just homeschool your kids. Well, how can everyone homeschool their kids if everyone's also supposed to work? That's why we have public schools. So there's a lot of this stuff that is tied, and it's saying like, okay, well, if we move to a 4-day work week for office employees, we can look at the structure of schooling and say, well, maybe it should be 4 days, or maybe it should be. There's actually now I'm mixing the two books up, but again, these two books are very good. I believe it's in Stolen Focus. He goes to a school that has no curriculum, that has no structure outside of saying the kids get to decide what they want to do for a 3-month period, and they basically get to do it and they implement it, and the teacher kind of just goes with what they want. And they build rocket ships, and they learn about physics, and they learn about this and that, and all the stuff. They cook, and they do all the stuff because they're teaching life lessons based around an idea, a concept. Now, we don't need to go to such a radical change, but there's somewhere in the middle where it's like, well, okay, if you let creativity and imagination be part of it, and you let school boards and state governments and local governments have some autonomy over these types of public schools, and get rid of standardized testing, because that is one of the biggest flaws, you can start to get rid of this rigidity and say, well, this is what we can do to make people more happy. Not necessarily have to be more productive. You can make more inquisitive, curious, strong-willed people, kids that come out. They're still going to be productive in society. They might not learn about, I don't even know, like what you'd have to move around. But we all know that there's certain things that you learn in school that you don't need to. It's just part of your curriculum. You can change that stuff and say, well, instead of that, we're going to learn about taxes. And today, instead of this, we're going to learn about your local environment. And like Lindsay was talking about, growing agriculture in your community. Because then you're going to learn about geology, you're going to learn about geography, you're going to learn about horticulture. I think that's the right way of saying it. You're going to learn about cooking. You can all this different stuff. And it bakes into a bigger curriculum. But this is they're all connected. These things are all connected. And it boils down to the prioritization of rigid control, coercion from a certain class of folks that, let's just say that they're not malicious, but it benefits them. And we as a collective society need to start looking at things. And that's why I think the rising unionization is good. Because this is in an office where like there are fewer, I mean, granted, it's in the UK, but in offices there is less likely of a union. So getting these benefits and holding these benefits, holding 100% of the pay and still having this benefit is enormous for people. So CB brings up a great question. I wonder if the benefits would increase with a 3-day work week or if a 4-day work week is a sweet spot. In the book, which this is not addressed in the study, I don't think, but in the book, there is a suggestion that 4 days might be the sweet spot, but also there hasn't been enough evidence to disprove that maybe 3 days is, or maybe that it's like 3.5, or maybe it's 5 days, but you work 4 hours a day. I mean, this is the thing. This is where the coerciveness of the system comes into play. How much control does a company need over you? Now, I might be saying it in a way that seems like it's malicious, but on some level, a company has control over your time. That is what they're paying you for. But with the increased level of AI and the increased autonomy through software, we could, rather than just saying we need to just cut workers, and then a lot of workers are going to need the welfare benefits that we're cutting also because Kevin McCarthy, we could just keep people paid the same way, increase their productivity by utilizing AI, reducing the time that they need to actually be in the office, and increase their productivity, increase the production, increase the revenues for the company, while also giving the benefits of less time in the office and more time with family, friends, doing your exercising, doing your hobbies, or just relaxing and sleeping. All of this is proven to be beneficial. This is, I'm telling you, you should go out and buy this book, or you should go out and rent it from your library. I'm not sure if it's on the Bucks County Free Library website for an audiobook. It's a pretty brand new book, but this is one that you should get. And the Digital Minimalism as well by Cal Newport. Both of them are good reads. I would suggest them both. And again, Jordan, to your point, she says, if I only worked 3 days, I wouldn't be able to afford to live. The point of this is to say that you're getting paid the same for the amount of days, right? So if I work 5 days a week normally, if I went to a 4-day work week, my pay would not be adjusted lower for that decrease in hours. It would be the same. That's the whole point. And that's what the study shows. And if you have 92% of them working with this and continue to use it, obviously something is working. And this is a new study. We will see as this goes on for longer. And we will see more studies, I'm sure, about this, because this is what people want. And you raise the question, what about hourly people? I don't think Starbucks is going to pay me for days I don't work. That's the case. But the thing is that per hour, you can have higher wages. You can say, form a union, and you can have more leverage and more labor power. There is a lot more dynamics. There's greater dynamics for people to bargain and leverage their power when the collective is stronger. And we don't just say, well, okay, the minimum wage is $7.25. That's just fine. We'll just leave it like that. If I work at Starbucks and McDonald's, which granted, neither of them actually have minimum wage employees, but that is to say, well, we're going to unionize and we want to have these benefits and we want to have this, that, and the other thing. Now, I was at a Starbucks, which I don't normally go to Starbucks, but I was at a Starbucks at UPenn when I was in school, and they had one person working there, and it was overrode the whole time, and there's a line, way back. It's inside of Barnes & Noble. It's a bookstore, and it was way back. Like, we had at least 15 people in line, and the guy was just doing his best. He was the manager. He didn't have the autonomy to bring more people in. This is the type of thing where it's like there are companies that are grinding people and milking them for every cent that they can get. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be malicious. It is their fiduciary duty to do so. But when we change the dynamics and Americans start to look at ourselves and say, we deserve better, we deserve more, we deserve to unite and have each other's back, rather than say, I got mine, so you have to go get yours. No, we can work together to form unions. We can work together to form worker co-ops. And if Starbucks isn't paying people well enough, well, guess what? You could start the local coffee shop down the street because you're working 4 days a week and you have more likelihood to be able to start a small business. You have more time to create that financial independence to take on the American dream that is to go and develop a company, develop an idea. This is the type of flexibility that actually to preserve capitalism, entrepreneurship, and frankly, the American dream as a whole. So I know that's not exactly a direct answer to say, well, what about hourly people? The point is that if all people that are salaried have the benefit, it should also be then a target of raising the minimum wage, hiring more people, etc. Right? And again, we should all want people to have the ability to work less. I mean, I think that's not a radical statement to say we should all want people to be able to work less and enjoy their lives. We have one life, YOLO. You should probably try to live it. And you should probably spend not the majority of your life sitting in front of a computer, crunching spreadsheets like I do, and having the actual autonomy over your life that you want.